Alright guys, so I had no plans on recording this. I'm going to be so honest. This is a thrifted coat that I got from, I think it was called Regenerations here in Michigan, in my hometown, like in Troy area. And the lining was like busted in this thing, and so I seriously took it out. And it was this lining sucks. I mean, it was already ripped in certain areas, so I just ripped the rest of it out, which I might be ripping this all out too, because I'm going to reline this with a much heavier fabric because I want this coat to feel a little bit warmer. And the fabric that I ended up getting was a one stretch knit, a pont knit, maybe that's what I want to call it, from Joann Fabrics. So this is what I have left over that is going to be for the sleeves, but I had already started pinning the front and back piece to the back of the coat. So I'm going to give you guys a close-up, a better look of what I mean as to how I pinned this, and then I'll show you how I cut it. Alright, so as you can see here, I took a long length of fabric, which was about as wide as this coat, folded half once, if that makes sense. And I ended up folding it twice. So what you have on one side is two folds. There's a fold underneath this, and on this side I have two raw edges, which is a selvage edge, and one fold. So it was a fold once and then fold it again, and then I lined it up to one side of the back piece of this coat. And this is what I'm going to use to give me three pieces. One will be the full back, which will be the fold that's on this side, and then there will be two that will go for the front, which means all of this is going to be cut anyway, so this fold will not exist. So I've already kind of pinned it along where the lining would actually go, especially here where I'm going to line it up, and then I'll show you how this piece is going to go. But this is the fabric I used. This is how I started to pin it up, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it out. Alright, so now that I have it pretty much cut according to how that one side of the back piece is, I'm going to take all of the pins out, and then I'll show you what it looks like. So here we are. The top two pieces is going to be for the front and the back. Well, no, the front. So left and right sides of the coat. So that's cut and done. I'll move that out the way. And then the piece that has the fold, this will stretch all the way through the back. And it'll line up with the shoulders, the neckline, the sleeve, and the sides. So I want to move on to pinning, or showing you how I pin the sleeves, and then I'll sew the pieces together. Alright, so before I can really do the sleeve, which the sleeve is already kind of laid out to make it easy for me to place it on top of the fabric, well, to place the fabric on top of the sleeve, I have to pay attention to my stretch. You want your fabrics to stretch around your body, so I had to make sure I'm following the correct grain line. The stretch has to go this way, which is along the body of the sleeve. So I need to make two, and two will be on a fold because this is my seam for the underarm, and then this is where the fold would lie. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the front and back pieces, just to make the full coat. And I'm going to line this edge, just extend it just a little bit from the sleeve. And then I'm going to line the fold. So that means there's double fold because I double folded this. So I would be able to get 2 cuts instead of having to just do 1. So lining that up. And I'm going to go ahead and pin everything down. Alright, so now that that's cut and out the way, I'm going to go ahead and unpin these and show you what the sleeve piece or pattern looks like. It's not bad. It's a small line that I need to get adjusted here. There. And so moving that out the way, I have my sleeve. This is the best I can do for it right now just because of how it's shaped. But that's what it looks like. So before I can sew any of the pieces, I need to pretty much adjust the front piece. And I'm going to do it from one side. The reason why I have to adjust the front piece is because there's a facing on this coat, and I have to shorten this side of it. What I mean by there being a facing, there's this is the facing. So this here is the facing of the coat, which means I have to cut this in. I have to line it up with the sleeve and the armhole and the side seams and the neckline, and I have to seriously cut this extra or excess off. So this had to be ripped up. This here, I gotta rip it off. It's easier to just rip it off, and then I should be able to sew onto it. So pin right at the edge because I can feel it, and then I'll just know I need to go before the pins. So I need to be on this side of the pins and cut straight up. Alright, so all of my pieces are ready. I have my back piece spread out, and the first thing I'm going to line up and sew is the shoulder seam. So I'm going to be using my Singer serger because I like for my seams to look finished. So you can't use pins when you are sewing with a serger because this cuts and threads at the same time, or cuts and sews the pieces together at the same time. So I'm just lining it up, make sure everything is good. And that's what's going to happen to both shoulder seams, is going to give you that finished look. Alright, so now that the shoulder seam is done, which you're supposed to be able to see it, because the next thing I'm going to do is pin the sleeves on both sides the exact same way, but I'm only showing you from one side. So all of this has to kind of line up and match up. So you would have to take the pins out as you sew because I am using a serger, as I mentioned before, but you're just lining your center and then your underarm or right where the side seam and the underarm would be. You're making sure everything's lined up, and then I'm going to sew it together. So just want to pin it first so you guys see what I mean. And this is the shoulder part of it. I'm going to sew this all together. Alright, so what I did off camera, which I will show you how I did it, but I went ahead and sewed the entire underarm of the sleeve and the side seam of my lining for my coat. So how I did that was lining everything up. So this is the sleeve and this is the underarm seam. So I just make sure that that is pinned down and matched up. And then everything else should lay nice and neat. I'm just going to pin them for now. Again, I'm using a serger. You don't have to. You can use regular sewing machine if you need to. But just starting from the sleeve and all the way down the side seam. Alright guys, so we're at the end. The lining is all sewn together. I even have the edge that's going to be at the bottom of the coat that's finished with the serger so that it's a clean edge, because I'm not going to sew it to it. I'm just going to leave it hanging. So it's going to be a hung lining, if that makes sense. But this part is usually the most difficult part to do, because most people don't know how to apply the lining into the coat and then flip it and all of that cool stuff. So I'm going to tell you guys step by step. Now, the very first thing you want to do, as you can see, this is 100% imported cashmere, so that's why I was trying to save this coat. It feels itchy, but that's why I need the lining. But the first thing you want to do is make sure that your coat is turned inside out. So you want to make sure that the inside of your coat is out. It's facing you. You want to see the pockets and everything. And then the second thing you want to do to make this easier on yourself is to take your sleeves and pull them in. So you're just going to take your sleeves and pull them in. So first two steps is done. Turn your coat inside out and pull your sleeves in. Third thing you want to do is a little different, because you're not going to turn your lining inside out. That means your seams are on the inside of your lining, so you just want to lay it on top like so. So in this case, what it's called is right sides together. Because the right side of the coat is up, in this sense it is, even though you've seen the inside, you have the right side of the lining, which means the finished seam is on the same side. So don't turn your lining inside out, just lay it right on top as is. Same exact way with the openings, and pull the sleeves in. So, third and fourth step, lay your lining on top where you can see it finished, and then pull the sleeves in. It makes it easier for you to work with. So the very first thing you want to do before you pin anything else is you want to lift the neckline of the lining up and turn the actual collar down so that it exposes this edge that you use, that you're going to just pin it right to the lining. And you're going to do this all the way around until it matches with the shoulders and everything. So And then what you want to do is take your edge, move everything over, and lay it on top of the facing that you have to sew it to, and pin it all the way around. Alright, so there it is. Everything is pinned all around. So all I have to do is sew that together. Alright, so at this point we are going to use the sewing machine, not the serger, because I'm not concerned with the inside being finished. I just want the lining sewn to the coat. So I'm going to make sure I'm using a straight stitch. And I'm actually going to start off by being concerned with the collar part from shoulder seam to shoulder seam, those intersecting points. So wherever that pin is lying, let's make sure this isn't in my way. Yeah. So wherever the pin is lying, and I'll tack those back down later, but wherever the pin is lining at these seams, intersecting seam points, that's where I'm going to start. And I'm going to make sure that this curve is laid down first and flat before I do the long seams. So I'm just going to make sure. I'm not going to take the pins out because you don't really have to. You just need to make sure that you can stretch it to fit. So the edges will line up. And I'm going to do this while the pins are still in. So I'm going to go forward first, then I'm going to back stitch, and then I'm going to continue to sew. Now that I know that's fine, I'm just going to continue to sew the rest of this side down, and then I'll revisit the other side. Alright, so this is what it looks like after it's been sewn all the way around to the facing and the neckline facing. So what you want to do first is make sure all of the pins are out, and we're going to flip this bad baby over. So all the pins are being taken out. Check and double check, make sure everything is nice and neat. Cool. And then what you're going to do in between, see, right sides together, you can see the sleeves in there. You just put your hand in here and you pull and turn it the right way. So now my sleeves are here, but the sleeves are not pushed into the actual armholes or the sleeves, so you'll take the lining and push them, you know, because you can still see them. So I'm going to take it and push it in the armhole. And the inside of my coat is perfectly aligned. Finishing touches that you can do. This edge was open, so you can either hand sew it, tack it down, which is what I'm going to do. Same thing on this side. I'm going to make a nice little small fold to mimic the seam, and then I'm going to tack it down. And with your sleeves, it's totally up to you how you do this. I think I'm just going to tack them down. I had to take this old lining piece out. I think I'm going to tack them down, but I'm going to show you how I'm going to finish these edges in a second for the sleeve because it's unfinished. So I'm either going to fold it in and sew it down and leave this, or tack it in. I'll show you guys what I'll do with that. But this is the inside of the coat, and everything's aligned and ready to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and share this video if you found it to be helpful. Stay tuned for more videos like these every Friday, and I'll see you guys in the next video.